Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are sharing with you 10 things we did to retire early.
Yeah, we had to do a lot of things to retire early to speed up this process. We wanted to make sure this would work. We didn't want to waste time. We didn't want to work extra time. So let's jump in. Here's 10 things we did to be able to retire early. And the first one, we didn't really think about when we were doing it, but we went back and checked and we were like, okay, we're good. And that's, we both got our 40 quarters into Social Security. If you don't know, if you're an American, if you work 40 quarters, you will get your full Social Security payout. And so it's pretty important to get that in before you're going to leave for your early retirement, because that's going to dictate how much money you get down the road.
Exactly. It's really important because it's not something, you don't want to have to mess with trying to get enough income to earn that while you're in early retirement or trying to travel the world.
Yeah, so if you don't know where you stand, you can go log on to Social Security website. You make a password to log in. You log in, they'll have your work history for the last however many years, and they'll tell you right on there how many quarters you've accrued. It's 4 quarters per year. So if you've worked 10 years, they're going to have that done, and you'll be just good to go. The second thing that we did to retire early was we stopped listening to other people. And this was a pretty big key because you get a lot of advice over the years. We've seen a lot of things when we were growing up about what you needed to do, what age you could retire, how much money you're going to need. And that's all drastically changed in the last 10 years. With the internet and the world opening up, everything is different. And unfortunately, the people giving the advice have not changed, have not adapted with the new times, and they're still telling you things that really don't make a lot of sense. So very few people have actually thought this through and actually done it to where they can say, this will work, this won't. And that's what we're here to tell you, is you got to think for yourself a little bit on this, because if the people that are giving you advice haven't done this or haven't thought this through, they probably don't know what's actually going to happen.
Yeah, I think that one is so important to help with your mindset as you are preparing to do this, or if you are even just thinking about doing it. The mindset is very important, and if you're listening to people putting things into your, into your head of things that are obsolete or are completely changed, like you said, a lot of things have changed over the last 10, 15 years even, and it's really important to get more updated information. And it's actually one of the big reasons why we share what we share, because it's more updated information, updated data that will help you a little bit better than using old information that isn't going to help you at all.
Yeah, the third thing we did to retire early was to get out of debt. And we started working on this many, many years ago. We were in debt when we were in our 30s and our 20s because we weren't making very much money, and we just had a couple of kids, and it's like, well, do I buy diapers or do I not buy diapers? And it's pretty easy to get into debt that way. And so we did get out of that, and that's the first thing, because you absolutely don't want to be carrying around debt while you're trying to travel and retire, because it's going to eat into that monthly budget that you have.
It's one of the first things that we always say when people are like, oh, I want to think about doing this, like, what should I be doing? It's always the first thing that we tell them is wipe out any debt that you have completely. This lifestyle is incredibly stressful and challenging if you are trying to do this with debt, carrying it around with you. It's an extra piece of baggage that you're going to be carrying around with you, and it's just going to make things a lot less fun. Budgeting is going to be a lot more challenging. So if you want to enjoy what this lifestyle provides you, you need to be completely debt-free.
Fourth thing we did was we made a credit card and point strategy. Now, most of our life we lived without credit cards. In our 30s and our early 40s, we didn't have any credit cards. And then when we decided to do this, we thought we're going to need to get some credit cards, because just renting a car is difficult. We're going to have to put a lot of travel on this. And then we started to get into the points of it and realized, wow, we can get these elite statuses, and we can be staying for free. We can fly for free. and it became amazing. So, you know, we have the links to the cards we actually use in the description below if you want to check those out. But find out what's going to work for you. We've kind of settled on IHG, Marriott, and Hyatt as our main hotel cards. And then for flying, we've basically settled on the one that we use the most, believe it or not, is Aeroplan from Canadian Airlines. And so since we don't have that card, you can transfer Amex points or Chase points to them. So having a Chase Sapphire Reserve or an Amex card and then one of those hotel cards or two of those is what really served us the best.
Yeah, it's important to get this strategy kind of figured out, what brands are going to be most important to you, and like you said, for the airline as well, if you're going to do that. We'll have more videos about all of these and have some already here on the channel about some of these cards and the benefits and what we think about them. But it is important to kind of set that up before you set out on your journey, because that way you've already got your statuses, and then you start traveling and you've already got the statuses at the hotels, and you've already got the points to get, you know, your flights for free or to upgrade to business and things like that. So it is really a key thing to do before you set out.
All right, another thing we did was take strategic vacations. So you're not just going to be vacationing on some beach destination every year. You can do that, but you also want to take some where you're learning something for your retirement. So if you take a vacation to Vietnam or to Thailand or to Mexico, you know, don't go to Cancun. Maybe go to Merida on your vacation. Check it out for a week. And then you'll know, is this somewhere that I want to go back to for a month or 2 months or 6 months? Because there's some pretty tried and true expat destinations out there. And once you know what those are, we're going to have videos on here of what those are. Once you know what those are, if you go check those out, you'll pretty much know then if that's one of the places for you, or if you want to cross that off and go try somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. So those are really important. Like you said, yeah, it's fun to, you know, go to Aruba and St. Thomas, but also you have to work in going to some of these other places that you might consider for longer term stays, because that way you kind of get a taste for it. It is super important to know beforehand, because some places are not going to be like what you think they're going to be when you're there for more than a week. And I think that that's the big, you know, key, is to kind of look at it through that lens of what is this going to be like if I stay here for longer? What are things that, you know, are going to complicate things or make things easier? Is, you know, food delivery easily available and things like that.
Yeah, and we would even take our cruises when we were doing our cruise to places that we knew the itinerary was somewhere that maybe we wanted to check out. So a cruise that would go to Colombia, or a cruise that would go to specific places in Mexico. So you can use those to your advantage as well. The sixth thing we did was we stopped buying stuff. Like all the stuff that we were buying, we just put a stop to that 2 to 3 years before we did this, because we realized anything we buy, we're now just going to have to sell a year from now. And so it makes no sense to keep accruing things, and you're wasting a lot of money. You're saving money by not buying it, and you're saving yourself a headache by not having to sell it later on.
And not just sell it, but like, you know, you're going to sell it for a lot less than you paid for it.
You
So
are.
it's like, why am I buying something just to get less money back for it in a year or two? It really does help a lot. Once we decided we were going to be on the road, we were like, okay, that's it. We're not buying any more stuff. And then you actually start looking at the stuff that you have in your house, and you're like, I don't even use this stuff. Why would I even buy something like this? You know, like,
Yeah.
we really just started seeing things in a totally different light. Once we stopped bringing things in, then we really evaluated the stuff that was already in.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, we just didn't want to get dragged down by that. And so the next thing kind of goes with that, which is detaching from the stuff that you already have. Not only not buying stuff, but then detaching from what you already own. Because when you try to retire early, the more stuff you keep, the more things you're managing, the more years you have to work to get yourself the money to manage those things. Be it a car, be it a boat, be it a house, a second house. You have to accrue more income to manage everything. So the more you get rid of, we just detach from basically everything, so you can do it quicker.
Absolutely. And let me tell you, I still really am a big shoe and purse or bag girl. And probably still what takes up most of my suitcase is shoes and bags. But I did detach from my massive collection, and I actually started just selling off some of my shoes and bags early in the process, and kind of to get used to the idea of not having them with me all the time. So it is important to start that detachment process early, because sometimes it'll take a little bit longer, especially on some of the like more emotional things.
Yeah, exactly. The next thing we did was we started learning about investing, and you really need to do a deep dive on investing and figure out what's going to be the best way to invest for you. You can just invest in index funds. So that is, if you don't know what you're doing, probably the safest thing you can do. Get some ETFs. But if you really want to take it to the next level and kind of tailor make your retirement, you may need to invest in dividends to make this work. You may not have to live off your investments. You may be able to live off of growth stocks, which is what we're doing. But you need to know which ones to buy and when. And there's a huge difference. Like, you can just say right now, this last few months, we've been buying up NVIDIA stock as fast as we could because it's such a great opportunity. And we haven't been buying a company such as Apple because they're both great companies, but Apple was overpriced for the last 6 months. And if you don't know the differences, that's why Apple has kind of basically stayed at the same price and NVIDIA has shot up. And so if you don't know those things, start learning about them now. The difference between a good company and an undervalued good company.
Yeah, and we do have several videos here on the channel talking a little bit more about investment if you want to do a little bit of learning along with us there too.
The next thing we did was we came up with backup plans because, this was not something that a lot of people had done when we started doing this many years ago, and we weren't really sure. We thought it was going to work, but we weren't 100% sure it was going to work. And so we said, well, if we have a couple backup plans, then it'll be fine. And those backup plans were, you were thinking about teaching, or we were going to do some other things. But as long as you have a backup plan, like we could do house sitting, then you have something where if your first plan doesn't succeed, you've got something to fall back on.
Yeah, I think that part is really important, just not because you're going to need it, but I think just kind of as a peace of mind to remove that little, cloud of doubt in the back of your head of like, ooh, what if, and you've got people chirping in your ear saying, well, what if you run out of money? And, there's always something you could do. Just kind of plan a few of those out in your head. We actually I have a teaching degree, so we actually looked into what it would look like if I needed to go, back to teaching. What would that look like? And just kind of had an idea of that in our heads. Didn't have to stress about it. Then we were like, hey, I can always do that. Then we'll have it in our back pocket if we need it. And we haven't even thought about it.
No. Another thing that we did to retire early was we realized that we both needed to get comfortable with everything we were going to be doing. And so generally, if you're a couple, if you're single, it's fine because you're going to be comfortable with what you're doing. But if you're a couple, one of you may be a little apprehensive about some or all of the things you're doing. In order to make this work, you have to alleviate those fears before you get started. So I was pretty certain that we were going to be happy in Thailand, but Ellie really wasn't that certain. She really was wondering, are we going to make it there? What's it going to be like? And so I said, let's just go. I mean, the only way we're going to alleviate that fear is by going there for a few weeks and seeing it. And, I didn't really know we were going to like it, but I thought we were going to like it. So we went, and we ended up loving it. And now it's probably your favorite place.
It is definitely my favorite place outside of the U.S. Thailand is number one on my list. And I really had no idea I was going to love it so much. I was really quite concerned, as you said, from the very beginning about, what it would look like there and what it would feel like and, what it would be like to kind of do longer stays there. So it is important to at least be open to giving things a try. And I think that's what helped us out there is that I said, you were fairly certain because you had done the research. And even though I saw some of that, I still wasn't sure in my heart until we went and I experienced it, and it's completely different. And I think that's the big key is kind of being open to those possibilities because you don't know what it's going to be like until you get there.
Yeah, so just take any of the fears you have, whether they're financial or maybe you have fears about your insurance or your health care. Start to chip away at those fears because the fears are what's going to hold you back from finally pulling the trigger. But once you get rid of all those fears, there's really nothing standing in your way.
Yeah, it is really something that's so important to kind of go after, to just be out there and and just be open and to be out there and to just kind of take it all in.
So these are the 10 things we did. We hope that's helpful to you. If you've done some of those already, let us know in the comments what you've done, what you're still working on, but hopefully that will help you push you on your road to retiring early.
Yeah, guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for much more like this. Give us a like on this one. Any questions you have, leave those down in the comments, and we'll see you next time.